Welcome, wanderers, to this explainer. Come, step into the alchemy of the Crimson Rupture. Today, I'm speaking to you as the ancient, raspy voice of the Red Plague itself. We're embarking on a grim exploration of ego, control, and ultimately, liberation. It's a tale of a dying world and the bitter medicine required to cure it.
Tell me, are you exhausted by the duty of maintaining your own chains? It's a piercing question, isn't it? As we dive into the source material today, I want you to ask yourself if you too build towering walls of logic. Do you construct these rigid psychological fortresses just to legislate against a chaotic, unpredictable universe? Because we all carry these rigidities, we guard our illusions so fiercely that the guarding itself actually becomes our prison.
Act 1. The Masonry of Certainty. Let's meet our protagonist. The Traveler was what the text calls an expensive variant of the last man. He was a being of extremely high tastes, supreme ego, and an absolute terror of the unknown. So, in a desolate land of shifting sands, what did he do? He constructed a dying, gilded cage. This abbey of opulent, heavy stone had one desperate purpose: shut out the future. He wanted to ensure that no guest within its walls could ever, even for a fleeting second, glimpse the hallway of tomorrow. It was a fortress literally designed to trap its inhabitants in a beautifully decorated denial.
This was the architecture of static control. Imagine 7 chambers of an oppressive reality. It begins in the Far East with the blue mouth of birth, locking every soul inside. Every single corner was anchored in this perpetual now, enforced by the deep, inescapable ticking of a great ebony clock over in the westernmost hall. The whole thing was a curated illusion of permanence. It was so completely devoid of life's natural motion that the Traveler himself actually secretly longed to just become stone.
Act 2. The Architecture of Hollow Fear.
But here's the thing about walls. No matter how thick they are, they can't keep out the nature of reality forever. Within those opulent stones, the air grew incredibly stale. This structural masterpiece, which was designed as a sanctuary, slowly mutated into a tomb of the Traveler's own making. The text calls this creeping dread the Thanos Drive. It's a quiet, suffocating exhaustion that settled over absolutely every inhabitant. In this weariness, it summoned a cosmic, psychic undertaker from the void outside. It summoned the Hunger, an entity drawn irresistibly to the rot of rigid, stagnant structures.
And the Hunger didn't breach the walls with violence or physical claws. No, it simply seeped in. It began a silent feast upon the fragile architecture of hope and those expectations of obedience that had been sustaining the guests. As those illusions were eaten away, the Abbey's so-called peace was revealed to be nothing but a deep, hollow fear of the absolute void. Suddenly, the walls of logic felt exactly like what they really were: chains.
Act 3. The Crimson Doctor descends.
The rot had festered long enough, and now the cure had arrived. He is the cosmic id, the spirit of negation. And he doesn't walk like a man. His arrival is the sudden, violent collapse of physical laws. Possessing no solid shape and moving with this terrifying, fluid lightness, he simply ignores the heavy, welded iron gates of the Traveler's ego. He is literally the unstoppable force meeting a highly fragile, immovable object.
The text traces the Doctor's calculated march right through the Abbey. Starting at the first chamber, that blue mouth of birth, he sweeps through the colored rooms. He acts as a corrosive acid, dissolving all the unearned majesty of the Traveler's kingdom. He just marches right past the velvet and the stained glass, moving inexorably toward that great ebony clock in the 6th chamber, and finally, toward the absolute darkness of the 7th.
He is a jagged blade, slicing reality. Just picture that for a second. As he moved from room to room, he demanded a blood tax from the ego of every single guest. He was slicing right through that thick, curated silence, bleeding out all the vanity and the control they had all clung to so desperately.
Act 4. From Stone to Ash.
As the Doctor reached those middle chambers, the world outside bathed in the deep, rusted hue of a blood-red sun. This triggered the final transmutation, the alchemy of insignificance. The Abbey became a surreal playhouse, facing the slow, colorful death of traditional logic. The salve of illusion, that cozy comfort of the perpetual now, was violently stripped away. The Traveler's opulent, perfect order was transmuted entirely into worthless ash.
What remains is the logic of the crucible. In this suddenly liberating void, all that gold and stone means absolutely nothing. The only remaining value, the only honest currency left to the traveler and his guests, is the currency of shattered expectations. The ego's wealth is completely burned away, leaving only raw, unfiltered truth.
Act 5. The Spirit of Becoming.
The Crimson Doctor takes his final step into the westernmost room, the seventh chamber, the black stomach of the Absolute. Here, the illusion of static control permanently vanished. It was revealed to be merely a contract written in disappearing ink. In that moment of absolute destruction, the traveler was finally, truly freed from the exhausting, lifelong duty of maintaining his own heavy chains.
The man of stone, who had been crushed by ego, paralyzed by rigidity, and frantically trapping himself in a perpetual now just to hide from death, finally collapsed into the absolute void, and from his ashes rose the spirit of becoming, liberated into infinite motion. By embracing the absolute void rather than hiding behind gilded walls, he became one with it. This, my friends, is true liberation. The dark, fertile ground of reality. That is where the traveler finally learned to walk, no longer hiding, but moving freely. So take a look at the walls you've built. Look at the rigid routines and the exhausting control you try to maintain over your own life. I'll ask you one last time. Are you ready to let your own gilded cage turn to ash and finally step out into the dark, fertile ground of reality?